Hi, so today I'm going to talk about mental hospitals and how they're incorrectly portrayed in the media. Now, I'm mostly going to be picking on two different TV shows for this because there isn't actually a lot of representation of modern mental hospitals in TV. Usually, when they want to use a mental hospital, they use an asylum from decades past or, you know, from decades past still, but like in the early stages of transitioning from the harmful asylums to the helpful mental hospitals. But now the thing is too is there could be other shows that have shown it or movies, etc. But unfortunately, I have probably not seen them. So I'm going to be picking on Supernatural and Teen Wolf. And of course, I'm talking about the TV show Teen Wolf, not the shitty movie from the 80s. Teen Wolf is a really good TV show, as is Supernatural, but like most movies and TV shows, they have an incorrect portrayal of mental hospitals because everybody loves the creepy asylums. Even I do. I incorporate in my books. I even have a character who was in an asylum, but the thing is that she was in the asylum during the 50s and 60s, so it is that kind of dark and dangerous, not great place. But modern mental hospitals are very, very different. Now, I'm mostly basing this off of my city, Ottawa, not, every single one in the world, so of course everything's going to be different. But if you're in a developed country such as Canada or most European countries or Australia or US, etc., it's probably going to be fairly similar. Now, one of the things that's kind of nope is easy admittance. Now, Teen Wolf, it was a little bit more accurate with the admittance, but Supernatural, not so much. People think that, oh, I'm insane. Let's put me into a mental hospital. Nope. You only are admitted into first of all, the mental hospitals have inpatients and outpatient programs, and I'll get into that later. But anyways, you're only admitted into the inpatient, meaning you stay there like 24 hours a day, if you have proven yourself to be a harm to either yourself or others. So someone who has attempted suicide or has repeatedly ended up in the ER from self-harm or has, whose mental illness has caused them to cause a lot of damage and harm to others. Oftentimes those cases are when, the police end up bringing them in and they end up staying there either for the night or two to have psychological assessment to see if it was just then, and then oftentimes they get put into an outpatient, or if it's severe enough, they'll be put into the inpatient. Now, outpatient and inpatient, I explain what inpatient is. Outpatient means is that you do programs at the mental hospital, but that's only during the day, and then you go back home and have dinner and sleep and have breakfast, and you go back the next day as if it's like school or work kind of thing. And you spend the day with psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, etc., trying to help you deal with your issues. Except the difference is that it's basically kind of like the same, except at the end of the day you go home. And the main reason why they have this sort of thing in place and why you can't be as easily admitted as shown in Supernatural. Now in Teen Wolf, like he had shown, because he was all this other stuff, that was actually supernatural, but anyways, they weren't 100% sure about that at the time. He was put into, I'm not saying the character's name because spoilers, but he was put in the mental hospital because not his character, but the thing that was messing with him, had, harmed others and made attempts on another character's life, so they're like, he's a danger to others, let's put him in the mental hospital. Okay, but that was the only real accurate thing that they showed of that hospital. Well, there's a few others, but it's better than Supernatural. Well, in some ways not. One of the things that I always see is showing the mental hospitals as these dank and creepy old places. Now, they could be old buildings, but oftentimes on the outside looking, but oftentimes on the inside they have been renovated to be more modern looking. Actually, mental hospitals tend to look more like hotels on the inside than the creepy old asylums we're so used to. Now, Supernatural hotels are hospitals, but more often than not hotels, because, you're living there. It's depressing to live in a hospital when you have a, physical illness or something, and the fact that they're treating something dealing with the mind and that not the body, so like depression, for example, they don't want to make you more depressed, they want to help you. And because they don't need to have all this stuff like IVs and heart monitors and all this other crap, it's all in the mind and not the body, they can make it look more comfortable and homey, so that can help with the healing process. And another thing, the reason why it's so hard to get admitted is because they just don't have the room, they don't have the beds. For example, my city, Ottawa, it's just under 900,000 people population. The Royal Ottawa Hospital, which is the mental hospital here, has 64 beds. So obviously they can't take a lot of people. They can only take, that's also part of the reason why they offer outpatient programs, so that they can still help a bunch of people while not housing them. Another thing I saw on Teen Wolf especially was not being able to call anyone outside, like talk to the families and friends. First of all, within the first day he was admitted, and then also after there was a suicide, which is completely incorrect, because in actuality they encourage having the families be a big part of the mental health thing, especially if there's something like a suicide. They need to talk to their families about it, or psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever, because that's a big thing, right? And want family support. They're huge on family support, because that can oftentimes help them heal more than anything. They have visiting hours all day, so family can come anytime during the day to come visit them, as long as they're not actually actively in a session, and all this other, and they can actually, believe it or not, you can bring your laptop and your smartphone. They often offer internet access, so it's not like you go in there and you're closed off from the rest of the world. Not to mention, you can have day passes where you leave the hospital if you are at the right mental state. So it's not as like, let's lock you up there and you can't have any contact with the outside world as it's been portrayed. Another thing is straitjackets aren't used anymore, but Teen Wolf did actually show what is used, but it's not kind of like go to bed or get strapped into bed kind of thing like what they had. It's more of if you are like attacking the orderlies and doctors and whatnot, and they just can't, get you to stop. They will do the thing where, they're kind of strap you to the bed with at your wrists and at your ankles, and sometimes around the torso, to ensure that you can't really move. But it's not like they strap you up and leave you all night, because that's completely and utterly unethical. They only will do that for a couple hours at a time, and you are constantly with an orderly or doctor, whoever, and every 15 minutes you're unstrapped to go to the bathroom or get a drink or something. Because, yeah. So that was a little no. And another thing with the Supernatural, how they got admitted, oh, we sound crazy, let's get admitted into a mental hospital. No, like I said, you have to be harm to yourself or others, and for you even to be put into an outpatient program, you have to be at a severe mental state. For example, my mom did a 6-week outpatient program at the Royal Ottawa Hospital, very beneficial for her. She has been diagnosed with major depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, and borderline personality disorder. And it was getting to the point where she was getting sent to the Civic, because Ottawa has, 4 hospitals. There's the Royal Ottawa Mental Hospital, the Civic Hospital is part of the regular hospital, but it's more deals in emergencies and mental health, and you have to go through the Civic to get to the Royal, actually. And then we have the Queensway Carleton Hospital and CHEO, which is the Children's Hospital. Anyways, because she had ended up in the ER at the Civic multiple times from self-harm, and so she got referral to an outpatient program at the Royal Ottawa. Now, that's 3 different extremely severe and debilitating mental illnesses, and it was from months of having going there and not getting help from her psychiatrist. Now, unfortunately, there's a year referral, but unless you were at a severely deteriorating mental state, and actually I am not 100% sure because I was really out of it when the emergency psychiatrist, urgent care psychiatrist, was talking about it, but I'm actually going to go through, as part of why I'm doing this is because on Thursday I ended up in the Civic because my anxiety had been getting so bad that I couldn't even leave my house some days. So I'm going to be going through some cognitive behavioral program with them, but of course it's going to be outpatient, all this other stuff. But the thing is, but I've been with a psychiatrist for a really long time, and if you just have a delusion like that, like they were showing, like, oh, I think the world is ending kind of thing and it's my fault, they'll send you to a psychiatrist, and you have to they have to diagnose. You can't just be sent somewhere and there's no diagnosis for insane or crazy. They have to diagnose you with a specific mental illness, and then they have to diagnose, then they prescribe you medication, and then they figure out the most effective plan of treatment. Now there's also for therapy and whatnot, and you have to give them a whole. If you just go to the hospital, like you have to give them pretty much your whole background story. I was in there for 3 hours with the urgent care psychiatrist talking about all the things I've been through as a child, as a teenager, and as a young adult. And I was talking about all the issues I've had with mental illness, my history with psychiatrists and doctors, and all this other stuff. I was in there for at least 3 hours telling them all this stuff. It's not just like, oh, I think the world is ending. It's my fault. Oh, you're crazy. Welcome in. No, and even then, it's just they have to send a referral to my doctor to send the referral for me to do the program. So it's not like, hi, I'm crazy, admit me now. They have to diagnose you, they have to figure out what's the best for you, and they will more often than not give you medication, which I did not see them doing really to them, and they make sure you take it. Like so many things are showing, like showing under the tongue. They make, they will make sure you're actually taking it by like looking all in your mouth and all this other stuff, like under the tongue included and in the cheek and all this other stuff. If you have shown not wanting to, take it. And that kind of delusional thinking could fall into any number of mental health, mental illnesses, such as borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, sorry, so all top of my head, or some forms of schizophrenia or other personality disorders, or even other mood disorders. So can't just say that. They have to figure out your family history as well, because a lot of mental illnesses are hereditary, such as bipolar disorder is very hereditary, as is borderline personality disorder, which I recently found out is 65% hereditary. So like they have to see, and then we'll get your the records from your family to see if what else, which are ones you're at risk for, and to see if you have those traits to make diagnosis easier and faster. Because the sooner they diagnose you with something, the sooner they can treat you. And even then, doctors get diagnosis wrong all the time. I have been incorrectly diagnosed with multiple illnesses, and once I got the correct diagnosis, things were better. I was first diagnosed with social anxiety disorder, but later found out it was generalized anxiety disorder, because it wasn't anything specific causing me anxiety. It was just situations I would just become anxious. Also, for the past year and couple months, I've been thinking I was bipolar, and lately, especially with the urgent care thing, the doctors are saying, no, I think you're BPD, actually, borderline personality disorder, which, by the way, is not like multiple personality disorder. It's actually one of the more minor personality disorder. It more deals with the feeling emotions very severely and having different behaviors depending on the time of day or year. Anyways, but that one I found, and also a sense of like very low self-esteem and feeling like everything's your fault, and that you're constantly afraid of people like leaving you in your life. And that's something I've always had to deal with, is I'm like so afraid to get close to people or like share personal information, because I'm afraid they're going to think I'm stupid, weird, or whatever, and not want to be friends or whatever with me. So I was like, hey, that fits perfectly. Whereas I've been doing research on bipolar for the past while, and I'm like, yeah, I guess. And it was kind of trying to fit my symptom, trying to put my symptoms to the disorder instead of like showing my symptoms and seeing which disorder it fit. So, like, wrong diagnosis happens all the time. And before I got the bipolar diagnosis, for years I thought it was just depression, but it turned out that, so at the same time, it's not 100% sure like, if I have bipolar or BPD. That's part of what the program's going to be. So, and also the whole like treatment, they have group therapy and they have individualized therapy and all this other stuff. The most common is cognitive behavioral therapy, or types of cognitive behavioral therapy, such as what I'm going into, which I'm probably saying this wrong, so I'll put it in an annotation or something, dialectical behavioral therapy and whatever. So like, and there's so many services and everything else out there, so it's like, I am not happy with the way it's portrayed, because it makes people afraid to seek help. I would love it if they showed, the thing is that if they showed a normal, especially on a show like Supernatural, oh yeah, they don't have padded rooms anymore, I forgot to add that, especially on a show like Supernatural or Teen Wolf with dark, creepy supernatural stuff going on, that, you know, the asylum thing is fun and creepy and it's a great story arc, but the thing is that if you're using a modern mental hospital, those aren't creepy anymore, like, they're actually better than any other kind of hospital. So, because the thing is that if you have a mental illness, your own mind is scary enough. Why should your environment also be? Thanks for listening.